There is a deeply counterintuitive paradox in American education. You would probably expect that moving to a highly affluent elite school district ensures a student more access to advanced coursework. But functionally, the exact opposite is true more times than not. Today, we are looking at the elite district paradox. Why quote unquote better high schools in more academic areas are actually far more likely to hold you back. To clarify, when I say elite districts, I mean areas saturated with top universities or a hyper-developed academic culture. Some examples are places like the Boston area, parts of New York City, Northern Virginia, and the Bay Area. As a disclaimer, please note this does not necessarily apply to every public high school in what we call elite zones or districts. There are exceptions, and schools in elite zones, much like outside, can still vary a lot. To be clear, this is a systemic trend and not an absolute rule. Here's the reality. What is frequently perceived from the outside as high-performing public schools in areas saturated with academic culture are far more likely to cap, restrict, or outright ban early access to advanced placement classes than quote-unquote average schools. Instead of offering a virtually unrestricted buffet of academics, they build artificial bottlenecks that cause delayed academic tracking. You might assume these schools would offer more advanced classes to match their high-achieving student body. Logically, that makes sense, but it simply isn't the case. While there are a few rare exceptions and private schools operate by their own rules, the vast majority of public high schools in elite zones restrict access. It comes down to different definitions of equity and different ideologies. In places like Texas or Florida, schools sometimes operate on a booster model. They want to raise the academic floor, so equity means open access. The school acts as an accelerator, or at the very least, they keep the road open. In contrast, elite suburbs and other elite zones operate on a restriction model. The culture is already hyper-competitive, so the school attempts to build a system that generates less internal pressure. Equity to them means delayed academic tracking, keeping the student cohort together and away from advanced classes to artificially cool off the competition. What is really ironic is that an ambitious freshman, sophomore, or even junior often has vastly more academic freedom in a seemingly average district than an elite one. So the question is, why do elite districts build these roadblocks? While there are several reasons, here are three main reasons. First, brand equity. They already have prestige. They don't need standardized APs to prove their rigor to colleges, giving them the luxury to restrict access. Second, administrative convenience. Forcing an entire grade into a near identical rigid sequence for a particular subject makes building the master schedule a lot simpler. Third, attempting to lower competition. Schools use these caps to limit the number of intense classes students take early on, trying to artificially cool down an academic arms race. Administrators might defend these caps as a way to reduce stress, but it is built on a flawed reasoning. The truth is, you cannot reliably construct a low-stress environment in a high-achieving zip code simply by hiding away the advanced classes from students. The competition doesn't magically disappear, it just changes shape or gets vented outside of the classroom. Removing or heavily restricting AP access without providing an equal, rigorous equivalent does not stop ambition. It frequently just moves the burden onto the student. Highly driven students simply bypass the school, self-studying in isolation or on their own to get the credentials the school refuses to provide. When this happens, the public school stops acting as an educational accelerator and devolves into a mere bureaucratic checkpoint. Now, to be clear, this is an entirely different situation than private or university-affiliated high schools dropping APs. Those institutions are not blockading students. They are simply replacing APs with genuine collegiate-level alternatives. For the public schools, here is a litmus test to see if a particular public school is actually offering a real alternative or just being deceptive. 1. Does their upper-level accessible honors or advanced class possess genuine early college-level rigor? And 2. Does it allow a student to walk straight into the corresponding AP exam and pass without massive self-studying? A legitimate alternative needs to pass at least one of these tests, acknowledging that some niche high-level classes might have content differences from APs. If the answer to both is no, it is not a real alternative. It is just the class used in the blockade. And this containment strategy completely backfires and creates three major problems. First, the senior logjam. Restricting early high schoolers makes students in general more likely to compress a huge amount of academic rigor into senior year, maximizing burnout during college applications. Second, it artificially inflates the gap between early and late bloomers. Here, we are defining an early bloomer as a student who enters high school with the academic maturity to self-study APs. An early bloomer can simply bypass the blockade. In fact, the school's restrictions actually give some of them an artificial advantage by helping them stand out in a school where many students lack APs on their college application. But a late bloomer takes the full negative impact of the AP blockade. And third, the information gap. Because the blockade hides APs early on, there is naturally poor communication to freshmen and sophomore about how the advanced placement system actually works. As a result, the school system inadvertently privileges only the students who already knew how to navigate the restrictive system when they were in the earlier stages of high school. We have to rethink what makes a quote-unquote good school district. Public school systems in elite districts are more frequently optimized for compliance, logistical simplicity, and institutional image, not individual potential. If you're an intrinsically motivated learner, you don't need a school to protect you from rigor. You need a school to move out of your way and appropriately support you at facing rigor.